Now, the main enemy is Freemasonry. Freemasonry claims it tries to make good men better men, and it accepts only men of high moral character, and it's a charitable, benevolent, educational, religious society. They seek to improve the community. But what they fail to tell the people is that Masonry has another purpose that is completely unknown to much of the public and many of the Masons. Manly P. Hall, a 33rd degree Mason, said, quote, "Freemasonry is a fraternity within a fraternity, an outer organization concealing an inner brotherhood of the elect." So you have the invisible societies, a secret fraternity. So there are those who know a secret and those who don't know the secret. In more than one way, deception is practiced on the initiates of the blue degrees. The blue degrees, as we're going to mention, the first 3 degrees of Masonry. He's told that nothing he's about to do will conflict with his religious or personal beliefs, but he's led phase by phase through a series of blood oaths, never to reveal the secrets of Freemasonry. These are blood oaths for a secret organization that, as we're going to see, is diabolical. So the Mason begins his Masonic career with the first 3 degrees, the 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge: entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. If he wishes, he can stop Masonry after he's finished those first 3 degrees and call himself a master mason of the Blue Lodge. If he wishes, he can continue up the York Rite ladder or the Scottish Rite ladder. In the York Rite, there are another 10 degrees in the York Rite, and if he completes those extra 10, he can become and call himself a Knights Templar Mason. And if he goes up the Scottish Rite ladder, there are another 30 degrees in the Scottish Rite. And basically, once he completes the blue degrees, he can buy the 4th to 32nd degree, the Scottish Rite, if he has enough money. It's basically that. So many of the individual degrees, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, the whole initiations, all the things that are said, and each of those degrees, some of the Masons that are even 32nd degree Masons haven't gone fully. They're called exemplified degrees. They haven't gone fully through all those degrees because obviously it takes a lot of time. But many of the Masons do know what I'm going to say when I reveal some of the initiations of each of these degrees. The book, Duncan's Ritual of Freemasonry, gives a word-for-word transcript of the first 3 degrees of the Masonic Lodge, the Blue Lodge. In the first degree, the initiate is asked the following question: what do you desire? In the first degree, he answers light. In the second degree, he answers more light. In the third degree, he answers further light. Now, Albert Pike, who's probably the most famous Freemason of all time, he was a Mason who simultaneously occupied 3 different positions. He was the head of Washington, D.C. Masonry, he was the head of American Masonry, and he was the head of World Masonry. Albert Pike wrote the book Morals and Dogma. It was published in 1871, and is used in all Scottish Rite initiations to explain the craft's philosophy. It's been called the most important book of Freemasonry. It's been called the Bible of Freemasonry, and it's given to every 4th degree Mason, this book. And it's also recommended in every issue of the Scottish Rite Journal. Each month it recommends to get and read Morals and Dogma. Albert Pike says in Morals and Dogma, quote, "The Mason is familiar with the doctrine that the Supreme Being is a center of light." And what is this light that the Masons are talking about? The answer can be found on page 321 of Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. Quote, "Lucifer, the light bearer, Lucifer, the son of the morning, is it he who bears the light? Doubt it not," end quote. And on page 324 he repeats the thought. He says, quote, "A devil, the fallen Lucifer, or light bearer." He identifies Lucifer as being the devil. And of course, St. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 11:14, the devil will transform himself as an angel of light. So the New Agers believe the same thing as the Masons. David Spangler, a leading New Ager, wrote, quote, "The light comes from Lucifer. He is the light bearer," end quote. And many people say, many Masons even say, Freemasonry is not a religion. It's not a religion. It is a religion. Albert Pike said on page 213 of Morals and Dogma, quote, "Every Masonic lodge is a temple of religion, and its teachings are instruction in religion," end quote. Some more information from Albert Pike. On July the 14th, 1889, Albert Pike issued formal written instructions to the 23 Supreme Councils of the world. He said, quote, "To you, Sovereign Grand Inspectors General, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degree. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. Yes, Lucifer is God, and the true and pure religion is the belief in Lucifer, end quote.
The sun enters each heavenly sign or house of the zodiac in what is called the 30th degree, and leaves at the 33rd degree. Thus, God's Son is said by the ancients to begin his ministry at 30 and dies at 33. A Freemason is not told the truth of the object of his worship until he attains the 30th degree. And this is why the highest degree in Freemasonry is the 33rd degree, for no one can rise higher than the sun. When viewing the shimmering rays of sunlight on a body of water at dawn or sunset, one can still see today how God's Son walks on water. It was well understood by ancient man that our weather was caused and controlled by the sun. It was a simple fact that God's Son had the power to control storms at will. The ancient Egyptians taught that he did this as he rested in his heavenly boat while crossing the sky. Thus, we read that God's Son quieted the tempest or great storm on the sea while in his boat. Which boat? The boat of Isis. Ra, the sun god, also known as Osiris, in the bark of millions of years in which he traversed the heavens, he wears on his head and accompanies a vast sun disk symbolizing his powers as Lord of the heavens. The boat formed of a serpent bears his eye, and the god is seated on a pedestal representing Mayet, the divine order.
On page 276 of the book called Ku Klux Klan by J.C. Lester and Bill Wilson, it says that, quote, General Albert Pike organized the Ku Klux Klan after the Civil War. So he also started the Ku Klux Klan. To also get a degree that the Masons, that are leading Masons, believe the light bearer was Lucifer, Manly P. Hall, another leading Freemason, wrote the book The Lost Keys of Freemasonry. His book is recommended in a reading list of what you should buy your Masonic relatives. And on page 48 of his book, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry, he says this, quote, When the Mason learns the key is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, end quote. So the Masonic writers are telling the public they conceal a worship of Lucifer from the rest of the Masonic Lodge. It's according to the Masons that Lucifer is the light bearer, and the Mason who figures it out has discovered the secret. So basically that's what we have. They are not only worshipers of Lucifer, but they also are Antichrist to such an extent that if a worshipful master of the Masonic Lodge allows prayer to be made in Jesus' name, his lodge can be closed and its charter revoked by the Grand Lodge of his state. This information was taken from a Jeremiah film special where they interviewed former Masons and former people that are involved in witchcraft. And here's some interesting parallels in what these men said separately. They're interviewed in different states and different countries. Some were from Canada, some from the United States. Look at the parallels here. In Blue Lodge Masonry, to become a Mason, you have to be recommended by another Mason. In witchcraft, you have to be screened and recommended by someone currently in witchcraft. In Masonry, you are blindfolded and bound by a rope. In witchcraft, you are blindfolded, bound by a rope, and led to the edge of the magic circle. In Masonry, a sharp object is put to your left breast, and you take a blood oath what to expect if you reveal any of the secrets of the lodge. In witchcraft, a sword is put to your left breast, and you take a blood oath not to reveal the secrets of witchcraft. In Masonry, during the ritual, the blindfold is taken off the candidate, and they tell you that you are in darkness and you're coming into light. In witchcraft, during the ritual, the candidate is challenged by someone at the edge of the magic circle who says, "Who goes there?" And the answer is, "One from the world of darkness." In Masonry, the Masons end their prayers with, "So mote it be." In witchcraft, they end their prayers with, "So mote it be." Now we're going to look at we're going to look at the York Rite of Freemasonry. In the York Rite, they claim only Christians can join the York Rite. In particular, what we're going to look at is the Holy Royal Arch degree of the York Rite. According to Jim Flanagan and other former Royal Arch Masons, in the opening and closing of every chapter of a meeting, the High Priest asks another Royal Arch Mason, he's called the Companion Captain of the Host, the question, quote, "Are you a Royal Arch Mason?" And the other Mason responds, "I am that I am." This refers, of course, to the time when Moses was approached by God, and God identified himself as "I am." And God said that this is my name forever. And of course our Lord said in John 8:58, he says, "I am," referring to, they asked him who he was. He said, "Before Abraham was, I am." In Masonry, they say that the name of God has been lost. And in a later degree, in the Royal Arch degree, the 7th degree, the name that was lost is now found. The men form an arch with their arms and say that God's name is Jah-Bulam, which is the joining of Jehovah, God's name, with the pagan gods Baal and Osiris. And according to the Royal Arch Masons, they call this the Grand Omnific Word. Now we're going to look at the Scottish Rite. In particular now, we're going to start with the 17th degree. And this information is taken from Scottish Rite Masonry Illustrated, Volume 1, pages 453, 456, 457, E-Cook Publishing, 1974, just to prove that this is just not something we're making up. Here's what the initiation is. Having completed the initiation, after revealing the password Jebulum and the sacred word Abaddon, the senior warden conducts a candidate to an elevated canopy to the right of all the others present. This is supposed to represent the end of the world, so forth. But what's most fascinating about this degree, the 17th degree, is the sacred word of the ritual, Abaddon. If you look in your Bible in Revelation chapter 9, verse 11, you'll find out who Abaddon is. He's the angel of the bottomless pit. He's a demon. So the sacred word of the ritual, the 17th degree of Freemasonry, is the name of a demon. So he's invoking a demon. The Masonic 18th degree is a mockery of the sacrament of the Eucharist. And the 19th degree, it's called the degree of Grand Pontiff. Another Mason during this ritual anoints the candidate with his head with oil and says, quote, "Be thou a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek," end quote. In the 20th degree, they say, quote, "No man has the right to dictate to another in matters of faith or belief. No one can say that he has possession of the truth." In the 28th degree, the symbol, this is for the degree Knight of the Serpent, it has a snake biting its tail. And what looks to be a friendly person, but you look in, as it looks in the reflection here, as you can see in the water, if you turn it around, it's a demon. And that's important because Albert Pike says, quote, "That which is above is as that which is below," end quote. In the 30th degree, it's called the Knight's Kadosh, the ritual reads like this. The Grand Master rises and says, "Imitate me." He then stabs a skull crowned with a tiara representing Pope Clement V and says, quote, "Down with imposture, down with crime." Later he stabs a skull surmounted with a regal crown, supposed to represent King Philip of France, saying, quote, "Down with tyranny, down with crime." The master and the candidate then kneel before a skull adorned with a laurel wreath. It's supposed to represent Jacques de Molay. And they say, quote, "Everlasting glory to the immemorial martyr of virtue." In the 30th degree, the initiate repeats both of these, demonstrating his hatred for the Catholic Church and any form of monarchy.
So they're against the church and they're against the state.
Right, exactly.
And wanting to bring down all forms of, that's why the monarchies were destroyed in Europe.
Yes, absolutely. This is a certificate for a man who completed the 32nd degree of Freemasonry. Notice the words at the top, "Order ab chaos," which means order out of chaos. On the 33rd degree Masonic jewel, the Freemason has the same things written here at the top, "Order ab chaos." The House of the Temple in Washington, D.C., which is where Freemasons receive their 33rd degree. And you can't seek, if you're a 32nd degree Mason or any type of Mason, you cannot seek to be a 33rd degree Mason. You have to be chosen to be a 33rd degree Mason. But the House of the Temple in Washington, D.C. is where they receive the initiation of the 33rd degree. As you can see right here, the 33rd degree House of the Temple in Washington, D.C. has serpents all over the inside. As you can see above, has concealed swastikas above it. The 33rd degree House of the Temple is exactly also 13 blocks north from the White House. The whole city of Washington, D.C. is laid out Masonically. You can see right here, including the pentagram, which is a 5-pointed satanic star, comes right down on top of the White House. Now, an expose of the 33rd degree initiation was done by a former Mason, 33rd degree Mason, Paul Rosen. It can also be found in Edith Starr Miller's book, Occult Theocracy, on pages 363 and 364. It says on those pages that part of the initiation, they claim that 3 murders of mankind are law, property, and religion. It says this, quote, Neither law, property, nor religion can be imposed on man, as they annihilate him by depriving him of his most precious right. They are assassins on whom we have sworn to wreak vengeance. They are enemies against whom we have declared war to the death. Of these three enemies, it is on religion that we must concentrate our most deadly attacks. Once religion is dead, law and property will fall to our mercy, and we shall be able to regenerate society by founding on the corpses of the assassins of man Masonic religion, Masonic law, and Masonic property." End quote.